quick confession. I am not actually a silver leader with Young Living. My wife is a silver leader with Young Living. I am actually a Young Living star. And this is good because it actually fits into with what I want to talk about today. So my talk is mainly geared towards the men, and I have no slides. So if the ladies need to check their Instagram stories or educational pages, that's fine. It won't offend me. The hustle is real, and I get it. Just real quick, for the guys in the audience, can I get a show of hands of the men present? And can we show some love to the fellas? So, for the guys, do I have any straight cavemen in the audience? There's a couple. And for a few of you that didn't raise your hands, just know that your wives just about snapped their neck doing the side thing. Right? And that's cool, that's fine, because I think every guy has an inner caveman. And when I say inner caveman, I don't mean like grunts and farts and stuff, although that's part of it. You should grow to enjoy that, or at least put up with it. But the inner caveman is really that intrinsic, instinctive characteristics that men have around protecting and leading. And I believe all men have those characteristics. I believe all men have a caveman mind and a caveman heart. And so when I talk about the caveman mind is obsessed with identifying and observing and categorizing risk and threat. And it prides itself on being able to mitigate those risks, or at least understanding how potentially to mitigate those threats. Right? So if God forbid, if a fire broke out here at the hotel, my caveman mind has already or will immediately identify exit points and routes and develop a strategy for my survival. Right? My caveman mind knows that. It knows that. And my caveman heart, I gotta figure out what my heart is. My caveman heart is that primal competence to overcome no matter the circumstance. Right? And we all have this as men to varying degrees. But the caveman heart is where if you were to pose any number of dangerous or frightening scenarios to me, I may not be able to articulate an actual plan, but my caveman heart knows the great lengths that I will go to protect my family, and it knows that I have an unyielding and an unbending desire to live and survive and overcome. Right? My caveman heart knows that. And so it's because I had this confidence, this knowingness, that I became concerned one day when my wife asked me, what do you think we should do about these products whose ingredients are known hormone blockers and endocrine disruptors and cause acute illnesses in young children, particularly young girls like the two daughters that we have? See, I was concerned because my immediate response was a dismissive, I don't know, which was then shortly followed by a more thoughtful, I don't know. And then eventually a genuinely humbled, I don't know. Right? Because my caveman mind had not even understood that there are distinct aspects of our modern way of living that are genuinely killing us. Right? It hadn't even acknowledged that those risks and threats were real and that they existed. And so I did what most men do when confronted with a very serious topic that they know nothing about. I made fun of it. Right? I made jokes about it. I teased my wife about her cute little oil hobby and her voodoo oils, and she was a witch doctor, and this was all very fun. But then I did the second thing that most guys do about a serious topic that they know nothing about. I Googled it, right? Or I got educated on it. I reached out and wanted to understand these risks genuinely, if for no other reason so that I wasn't embarrassed by the question again, right? And in the beginning, when I was preparing for this talk, I thought that's what I was going to make it about, right? I figured I'm going to grab you by the proverbial collar, and I'm going to beat you about the head and shoulders with 175 slides about the most egregious statistics, scientific findings, medical findings about cancer and illness and chemicals and toxins and all of those things, how this links to that and this causes that. And as I got all fired up and excited about that, I decided not to. Because I realized that to understand these things intellectually, particularly for us as men, to understand these things intellectually is not good enough. It's not good enough because it doesn't engage us at our core as men around those characteristics of protecting and leading. See, as men, we have to bring ourselves to an emotional place that will cause us to act, right? Cause us to take action. we're not going to stay in this emotion long, because I truly believe in all the things that we've been talking about the last 2 days, intentional language and emotion and elevated emotions and all those things. But for a moment, think with me how you react physically when you think about someone trying to kidnap your children or cause harm to your family. Right? And how do you feel when you think about that? For me, I get that tightness in the middle of my back, and my shoulder blades start to squeeze together, my forearms tense automatically, my fists fall. I get this legitimate fire energy from my core that bursts out through my shoulders and tries to light my hair on fire, right? That's the feeling that I get. And it's the feeling that we ought to get when we acknowledge the fact that there are products and companies and entire industries that are predicated upon the assumption, or even the belief, or even the bet that you are willing to compromise your own rigor and vitality and the rigor and vitality of those you love, all in the name of convenience, that you're willing to put that on the line for you and your family just for convenience.
That was great.
When we understand the risks and how real they are, we start to wake up our caveman mind. And when we understand that that's really, in a lot of ways, the choices that's being forced upon us, we start to wake up our caveman heart. And I think a lot of the guys are probably asking the question, okay, then what do we do, right? So if I get that, if I understand it and I feel it, what do I do? And I think for a lot of guys in the audience, you're probably doing it. Maybe not, I don't know you. But if you're here today, statistically speaking, you're likely in a relationship, right? Not definitely, but you're likely here with a wife or a girlfriend, you're maybe a husband or a father, you're in some sort of a relationship. And if you're anything like me in the beginning, your thought process is, I'm here to support her. And that's admirable, and you should. But I would also encourage you as quick as possible to ditch the mentality of here to support her and switch instead to the understanding that as a man, you are called to lead your family and those you care about in a life of wellness and health. Yeah. You are called to do that. So we ask ourselves, how do we bring about change? Right? Change is really when thoughts and emotions become words and actions, or, as we've heard often this weekend, consistent actions, right? So let's talk about words for a minute, guys. And I'm not trying to dime you all out by being honest, but if we're honest with ourselves, the reason that we use support language is that it's socially acceptable language that allows us to justify our laziness. We say things like, honey, whatever doctor you want to go to, I support that, right? Whatever products you want to buy, I support you. Right, and we pawn off all of these really critical decisions onto our wives, onto others, onto the system. The first thing that we have to do to create change in moving our thoughts and our feelings is putting them into words, right? We just had a talk on this a minute ago, right? Words are powerful. And for guys, putting it into words means that we have to talk, gentlemen. We have to be part of the conversation. We have to be part of the discussion, right? We may not have anything valuable to add right now, but we can't not participate. So when those critical health decisions come up, whatever they may be, medical or otherwise, we have to be part of the conversation. And all too often, we simply choose to support instead. And then when we take action, we need to take consistent action, right? And I think a lot of speakers focus on the big, massive action, right? And I'm all for that. There's a place for massive action. But when we look back on our lives, how often do we realize it's often those small daily activities that shifted the trajectory of our lives that really made the difference? And those are the things that we as guys have to think about. What are those, right? So if you're here today and you're new to all of this, right? You're new to these ideas, you're new to these products, you're new to this business, you're new to this company. Where do you start? Where do you start? What do you do? I used a play on words earlier, and most of y'all know where I'm going with this. We're familiar with the ditch and switch process, yes? Okay. So for guys that are new to this is your path, right? This is what you do. This is the tactical part of this. And it starts easy enough, right? It starts with a very simple question. What am I putting on my body that I know no longer serves me. Right? You switch out your cleaners, you switch out detergents, you start using oils. And that quickly and easily gives way to, what am I putting in my body that I know no longer serves me? And you learn about Nisha and amino Ys and Super B and all the other cool things, right? What you may not realize immediately is that as you're doing that diligence, that intentionality that you're putting into those decisions and those changes, it starts to bleed. And it starts to bleed over into other areas, right? You start to tweak your diet. You catch yourself reading labels in the grocery store. You're thinking deeply about what am I consuming and why. You find yourself on the internet trying to figure out what an olfactory system is and why does it matter to my emotions. Then maybe you come to an event like this and you listen to people talk about changing mindsets and setting goals, and you're actually a little bit embarrassed to acknowledge that you've never allowed yourself to dream the way that you are hearing these people dream. And as a man, you don't know what to do about that, right? You start to ask yourself, what thoughts have I allowed to take root in my mind that no longer serve me? And gentlemen, when you start to struggle with that in a very genuine way as a husband and a father, there is some real change at work. And for a lot of us, we haven't done that. We don't know how to do that. And when we look around wondering, how do I do that? You're suddenly pleased to realize that all along, while you've been doing these other things, you've created and surrounded yourself with a community of people who are actually willing to help you do that. People who are rooting for you, excited for you, want to see you be happy and healthy, and help you along that way. And then you start to ask yourself, what type of relationships have I allowed to take root in my heart that no longer serve me? Guys, Dish and Switch is the path, because a year ago, Dish and Switch was about switching toothpaste and deodorant, right? Dish and Switch now is about changing mindsets and evaluating relationships. For me, Dish and Switch now is about letting go of this wildly selfish notion that because I somehow provide a living for my family, that I've met my obligations as a husband and a father. And instead, switching to the understanding that I have real responsibilities for the health and the care of those that I care about most. And I'm not going to pawn those off on my wife, and I'm certainly not going to pawn them off on some bureaucracy to tell me what's safe or what isn't, or what does or does not actually heal my body. Gary Young once said, I don't make products for profit. I make products for purpose. And I would encourage particularly the other gentlemen in this room, we need to make that decision as well. We need to make that switch as well. Right? We need to ditch the idea that because as providers, we provide a living for our family, that's sufficient. And switch instead to the understanding that living to provide a purpose is what we are called to do as men in whatever walk of life that we're in. In closing, I would encourage you, become educated on these risks. Right? And I'm not going to go through them here today, but there's plenty in the room that can help you with that. Understand them intellectually and understand them deeply, because when you do, they will grab hold of your caveman heart and they will make you want to act. But don't be afraid to keep your actions simple and purposeful. Commit to being part of the conversation and take small, consistent actions every day. I'd like to thank you all for letting me be part of the conversation today.